Now, I know that many of you have spent the last few weeks furiously and angrily masturbating, and as such you might be worried about the state of your eyesight, so I thought, to help you test it, I'd bring today's News at Kate to you live from Barnard Castle. But this makes a point. It brings together two things that I want to say. Firstly, about the way that the government is completely out of touch with real people. They honestly think we'll believe this crap that they're telling us about emergency childcare and driving up and down the country and taking day trips to test your eyesight. And at the same time, I want to talk about sexual frustration in lockdown. And it really feels to me like this lockdown has heralded a new era of prudishness. Like right at the beginning of the lockdown, we were told that you could either spend the lockdown apart from your partner if you don't live together, or you could make the next step, suggesting that that's how relationships work. The next step is always to move in together. Well, it's not. We're not all the same. We don't all have relationships in the same way. For me, the next step was going to be building a dungeon. Get over it. And then we've seen this come up over and over again, the shock and outrage about the scientist who went to visit his married lover. I mean, get your smelling salts out. You know, how are we living in 2020? And that's worthy of a headline. Shock, horror. She's married? Boris Johnson, responding to the Dominic Cummings situation, said, well, at least he didn't go and visit a lover. As though driving halfway across the country in a tiny tin can with your symptomatic, tested positive for COVID-19 wife, a small and vulnerable child, going to see your parents, who by virtue of their age will also be vulnerable, when it was apparent you didn't need to, taking day trips, driving around when your eyesight isn't even necessarily working properly, all of that can be justified as reasonable. But having a moment of intimacy with someone that you love and care about and are going absolutely crazy without during lockdown is considered too much. There are other countries that have done it better. The Netherlands has said from the outset that it's acceptable to go and visit your partner if you don't live together, and you can reasonably travel to wherever they live without putting people at risk. They even suggested that people who were single might choose a sex buddy for lockdown and pair up and basically pick somebody to be intimate with during lockdown. And I just think that in 2020 we need to be a bit more honest about the fact that physical intimacy and sex are a healthy, normal thing to want and to have. We know because when babies are born, the first thing they do is hand them to the parent and they say, take your shirt off, and you're always encouraged to hold the baby against your bare skin because scientists have shown that skin-on-skin contact boosts your immune system. And frankly, right now, who doesn't want a boosted immune system? It seems like a ruddy, helpful thing to have. And we also know that craving sex and intimacy are normal, healthy things that everybody does. And whenever the government talks about ending lockdown, they talk about when shops can open, when bars can open, when restaurants can open, when can the football season restart, and nobody is talking about the thing that is actually more important to many of us, which is when can we see and be physically intimate with those people that we care about. And that's pretty ironic coming from Boris Johnson, someone who is not exactly notorious for never having had sex with anybody ever. In fact, it's the number one reason he's been fired from every job he's ever had until now, and it's about time he was fired from this one, in my personal opinion. Bang's table is still quite horny.